Hello students, today we will be discussing about a very important topic of lifespan development, that is on middle age. Now when we talk about middle age, it is very essential that we all have to pass through this particular middle age. Now in middle age, what are the various important features an individual experiences? That is very important. Now today in this particular class, we will be talking about the various characteristics related to middle age. Now, if you see this particular slide, there are some objectives of today's topic. The first objective is to understand the meaning of middle age. The second is to introduce the subdivisions of middle age. The third is to explain the various characteristics that are related to middle age. Now, middle age is generally considered to extend from age 40 to age 60 years. Now, age 40 to 60 years is a very crucial period in an individual's lifespan. How it goes? Let us see. Now, there is always a good mental health acquired in the adulthood. As the individual grows from childhood to middle age, there are so many changes that takes place in an individual's life, and they all go a long way towards easing the adjustments. Adjustment is inevitable. There is always an adjustment that takes place in an individual's life. So there are some new roles that an individual's take place, and also certain social expectations of middle age, because they become parents, they become responsible husband and wife, and then children, taking care of elderly parents and taking care of job and etc. Now, the period of expanding social and personal involvements and responsibilities and advancing a career is also an essential important component during middle age. Also, there is a supporting of offsprings in their development to become mature individuals. What happens is, during middle age, it is very essential that the individual takes care of their next generations. Now, how individual is, especially during middle age, is divided. Now, very interestingly, it is divided into early middle age and advanced middle age. When you say early middle age, it is still the individual is with lot of energy. There is some amount of energy which is retained, but as the individual grows towards 50 to 60 years, there is a decline in the physical activities, there is a decline in the intellectual, and there are many aspects that can be discussed. So therefore, the age 50 to 60 is considered to be advanced middle age. Now, you can see the slide. There are a few characteristics of middle age. Now, if you see various topics that are here on the slide is dreaded period, middle age as a time of transition, as a time of stress, middle age as a dangerous age, middle age as an awkward age, middle age as a time of achievement, middle age as a time of evaluation, also middle age as it is evaluated by a double standard, and middle age as an empty nest, and then also period of boredom. Now, we will be discussing all these individually in the following slides. Now, when you say middle age is a dreaded period, let us see first understand the meaning of dreaded period. What is the meaning of dreaded period? Dreaded period in terms of fear, anxiety, and there are so many other physical as well as psychological aspects that can be discussed in terms of dreaded period during middle age. Now, mental and physical deterioration and cessation of reproductive life is a very significant important feature in an individual's midlife. Now, if you specifically focus on the mental and physical deterioration, there is initially fear in the individual, anxiety in the individual. Now, how fear and anxiety are related? As the individual progresses towards age, there is physical as well as mental changes that takes place in an individual. Now, Since so many years they have been working, they have been enthusiastic about their life, full of different changes in their lives, but suddenly when they come to middle age, there is a deterioration of physical health and the mental health. Hence, the individual is in a situation of fear and anxiety that he is or she is becoming old. Apart from this, there are some internal and external changes in terms of bulging belly or in terms of grey hair, and all these physical changes also affect the individual psychologically. Now, what is the important aspect that we come across in the middle age? It is the cessation of reproductive life. So, there are two important factors that needs to be focused, as middle age is a dreaded period in terms of menopause and also in terms of male climacteric syndrome. Now, there are certain important aspects of a woman's life and a man's life during middle age. Now, menopause is one such important aspect of women where there is a cessation of the menstrual cycle. For men, it is a question of virality, whether the individual or whether the male is sexually potent or the energy of the individual decreases. So, these are the very important aspects that that has an impact in the middle age as a dreaded period. Middle age is a time of transition. Now, when we say transition, transition has something to do with the change in an individual's life, whether it may be any situation that can be. It indicates that there are some new interests that takes place in middle age. What could be the new interests? The new interest can be the role of a parent or the job where they feel more interested, more exciting, more responsible in nature. What are new values that we here talk about? The new values relate with the relationship that they establish in the middle age, the value for money, the value for relationships, and there are many aspects that can be related, whether it may be with regard to occupation as such. Also, in addition to this, there are certain new patterns of behavior. What could be the new patterns of behavior is, in terms of the women especially, there is an experience of menopause because of which there is a lot of behavioral manifestations of menopause in women. Apart from this, with regard to male climacteric syndrome also, there is a loss of self-esteem in men, which is quite evident during this particular time of transition in terms of new patterns of behavior which were not usual in their previous years. Now, according to Kimmel, he has identified 3 common and almost universal developmental crises. Now, when we say universal developmental crisis, these crises are universal in nature wherever in the country, whether we talk about the culture or tradition or region. On par with all these, there are certain important factors that are playing a vital role in the individual's midlife. The first one, we can say that the parenthood crisis, categorized by where did we go wrong. Many of the parents do think or do have a question called where did we go wrong. Both the parents are in a question, because why this question comes? When there are certain failures in the children's that is being observed by the parent. Now, where did we go wrong is in terms of the parenting styles. If the parenting style has been too permissive, there must be some problem with the child. Or if the parenting style being overprotected, then there is also a situation of where did we go wrong. So, the parenting styles, the nurturing methods or patterns in the children is very, very important, which every parent comes with a question, where did we go wrong, if there is a failures in the children that is being observed. Secondly, the crisis arising from dealing with aging parents. Now, during middle age, there is also an important responsible of these middle-aged individuals, that is taking care of their parents. How should we go about with taking care of parents as well as children? Two different important responsible jobs. Now, will the middle-aged adult is able to perform these duties? Yes or no? There is a question. Now, there is always a situation called what is most important for them. Now, for a parent, it is their children. The first priority goes to the children. The second comes their own parents. Now, in this situation, there is always a crisis called where to put my parents, whether in an institution or an old age home, whether there should be some caregiver apart from the children alone. Now, there is a situation of this sort of crisis that arise from dealing with aging parents. The third crisis that comes from trying to deal with death, especially that of a spouse. There is always a crisis in every individual's life, not only in middle age, but why especially in middle age? Because there is sometimes a loss of the spouse, which is very, very traumatic, which is very, very psychologically distressing for the individual. All along they have been married for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, but suddenly there is no partner in their life. Now, this creates a lot of stress in them. Therefore, especially for women, if this is a case in women where they lose their husbands, there is a problem of women thinking, how can I go on my life without my husband? Now, if in this case, there is always a situation of depending on either on children or on in-laws or some other tertiary group for the support. So, there is always a crisis, especially in women during this time of transition, a situation called how can I go on with my life attitude. Stress is inevitable in every individual's life. Now, stress in middle age, something related to the physiology which is very important as an influential factor in creating stress in middle age. There is radical adjustment to the changed roles. Now, there are different roles that an individual changes from their childhood to adulthood, even till old age, but these roles are playing vital role in terms of their life patterns, especially when accompanied by physical changes. As I have previously discussed, the fertility issues and the virality issues and the menopausal factors, they are all creating lot of stress and storm in the individual's life. To have some categories of stress during middle age is, one is the somatic symptoms, which is again physiologically determined by these individuals in the midlife, especially aging, process of aging in terms of wrinkles, in terms of body sagging, in terms of gray hair, in terms of sensory changes, in terms of appearance. There are many factors that contribute a lot in the somatic stress. Now, when we talk about cultural stress, we always come up with certain cultural factors in our lifestyle. There is culture which we cannot separate. Yes or no? Culture is playing a very, very important role. Therefore, when a person is in a middle age, he has been carried out with lot of culturally relevant situations in his life, which he thinks that there is a strong feeling of youthful and dynamism and also victory which is created in the middle age. Therefore, it is a very stressful situation in the middle age, especially with the cultural stress, as it indicates that their youthful age was much more fruitful and colorful than their middle age. Economic crisis or economic stress is very, very essential where it comes to the upbringing and education of the children. Now, hardly, unfortunately, many children do not understand the factors, especially the economic stress that the parents are undergoing, because nowadays education has become commercial. Lot of money has been invested by the parents in the education of the children, but how many of the children are succeeding in their life, how many of their children are progressing in their education, So, there is always a factor called economic factor, which is quite vital in creating stress in the middle age. Psychological stress, it is very, very important. When we say psychological stress, there are many factors, individual factors, family factors, occupation related factors, health related factors. Therefore, even the death of the spouse creates lot of psychological problems in the partner. Also, there is a departure of the children, as I have told you. When children leave away their home in terms of marriage, in terms of job, in terms of career prospects, there is a situation of psychological stress. Also, there is a boredom with marriage. Sometimes some couples, after living for so many years together, there is some point where they feel saturated, and there is a situation called boredom which sets in their minds. This also creates, there is no enthusiasm in the partners, there is no kind of humor or exchange of ideas or mutual understanding, becomes monotonous. Now, there is a sense of loss of youth, as I have told you, in terms of loss of fertility or loss of virality. There is a loss of youth because of their middle age that they are trying to go through. And also something, there is a illness which is very, very essential. The role of illness, the role of health in the middle age. As the physical health deteriorates, there is a chance of becoming ill. Therefore, many people, say for example, in the middle age, people are prone to diabetes, people are prone to hypertension, people are prone to obesity, related many health problems that can occur in the middle age. Hence, it is also creating lot of stress. Now, middle age is a dangerous age. How? As you can see the slide, the usual way of interpreting dangerous age is in terms of the male who wants to have last fling in life, especially in his sex life, before old age catches up with him. Now, when we say dangerous age, as I have given you an example of the previous slides, that cessation of reproductive menstrual cycle in women and the loss of virality in men has a very, very significant role to play. Now, when this happens, definitely there is a threat in their sex life. Whether they are able to cope up with this or not, there are some situations where people can try to go into extramarital relations and other problems where they end up with divorce. There are other physical and mental illnesses that can also take place, and apart from this, alcoholism is another important aspect, or even sometimes leads to suicidal tendencies. Now, there are so many problems that are associated with the sex life of an individual in the middle age. Therefore, it is considered to be a dangerous age. Now, middle age is an awkward age. How? When you say awkward, it is hard to do. The meaning of awkward is hard to do or being something inconvenient situation. Now, feeling that they have no recognized place in society, middle-aged people try to be as modest as possible in terms of their clothing, in terms of their behavior and many aspects. Most middle-aged people try to dress as conservatively as possible and yet adhere to prevailing styles. You must have seen people in middle age wearing jeans and trousers and then very much trendy in nowadays. Now, middle age is a time of achievement. As the term indicates achievement, there is something related to success. Now, with this I would like to quote the theory of psychosocial development by Erikson, where he mentions that it is a crisis age in which either generativity, the tendency to produce, or stagnation, the tendency to stand still, dominates. Now, it is all dependent on the individual whether his life has been productive or stagnated. According to Erikson, during middle age, people either become more and more successful or they stand still and accomplish nothing more. If middle-aged people have a strong desire to succeed, they will reach their peak at this time and reap the benefits of the years of preparation and hard work that preceded it. Sometimes adults can be generative in other families' relationships, as mentors in the workplace, in volunteer endeavors, and through many forms of productivity and creativity. One thing is very essential, that as the individual progresses the age, it is very important that they are more generative in their life, but sometimes it does not happen. Why? There are some other psychological factors, family factors, health related factors that can contribute to an individual to become stagnate. Middle age is a time of evaluation. Now, when we say evaluation, it is a time of self-assessment. Now, why an individual assesses himself? What is the need? Don't we all assess ourselves at different times, different situations? Yes, even in middle age, because as we have discussed in the previous slide about Erikson's stages, generativity and stagnation, it is very important that we should assess ourselves. Not only in middle age, every age it is very important to assess ourselves. But why is it so predominantly important as a time of evaluation is to evaluate their accomplishments in the light of their earlier aspirations and expectations of others, especially family members and friends. What is my achievement? So far what I have done to my family members, what is it that I have left to my children, and many other aspects related to their individual and social aspects. Now, middle age is evaluated by a double standard. Now, why is it called as a double standard? Because it is evaluated by one standard for men and another standard for women. Why does it happen so? Why is it different for both of them? Because, as I have discussed, it is different because of various reproductive aspects that are related to male and female. Now, the first relates to the physical change. The second is the area in which the double standard is apparent, is in the approved way for members of the two sexes to age. Middle age is the time of empty nest. Now, when we talk about empty nest, it is very clear. It is a time when the children no longer want to live under parental roof. Now, during this particular middle age, now these people become parents. Sometimes they also become grandparents. Now, this is the situation where children leave from their home, they go away from home, they start working, they start studying somewhere out of the place where they actually live, and all these things happen which leave the parents as an empty nest syndrome. Middle age is a time of boredom. How can we explain this? Now, it is one of the most unhappy periods of life. How? Because there are no children, children are away, and of course, they are almost nearing to their vocational aspects. Now, also the wife and husband live together, but there is no such enthusiasm in their life. They feel that life is coming to an end. So, there is an experience of boredom which is very, very significant in the middle age.